Part of the conversation. What it means to love yourself. Free ego, pride, and says we learn to do have accepted or as our self. We are free from negative self-talk. Start a 90-day transformation, and she will assist along your journey. Whenever two or more are in his presence is how this works. Kellie's ebook is how she walked her mind out of doubt and fear, one blog at a time for 13 weeks, into loving and acceptance of self. The first step is the hardest, and it will become a way of life. Once we know we can free our thoughts from fear, the work becomes a staple item to the goodness it provides. Life is a gift, so make sure you choose to wrap yours in a world that is created by and lived on your terms. Kellie J. Wright is a successful radio show host, self-love transformational guide, business owner and voice, and author at www.internaljourneys.com. Kellie is on a passion-filled mission to help individuals discover their own truth through her actualized process called the 90-Day Transformation. Now, may I introduce to you, the audience, to the entire world, to the universe, to the light, Kellie J. Wright. Oh, yeah. Well, there you go.
I don't think I'm going to get tired of hearing that. I love that intro.
Oh, we have it, dude.
I like it because when you are doing your work, when you're living your journey, when you're growing out loud, when you're practicing every day the things that you've learned and trying to keep unlearning the things that you have taken on, and you forget about all the things that you've done and that you're doing. Real time can be very mysterious.
In other words, what you're saying is you actually get wrapped up in your own life. So, I mean, you don't live outside of your own life. You don't do what I do, right. Is outside of the box.
Yeah, yeah. You're and I actually am just talking to a client, a friend, about boxes last night and this morning, and how we put those, that they're a part of our being, and they really are part of what we've taken on or taken in our development through life. And I was really listening to you read my bio and introduction, and I was taking notes because it's when you have someone else give you something back to you, you get to look at it in a different way, right?
Yeah, and it's the way you say it too. It's not how you do, right? It's a saying. It's not what you say. It's how you say it.
Yeah, exactly. It's and actually Diana, who I was talking to about boxes, mentioned that about your intro. She said, I think it's really interesting to listen to Bob read your bio and the way that he reads it, because he slows it down a little bit here and breaks it up in different parts, so you have to listen to it in a different way.
Yep.
So.
Yep. I mean, it's guiding people. It's guiding people through the story. You know, sometimes you have to speed it up a little bit because you go down a little bit of a hill, and then you got to slow it down because you want them to remember what you said over here, and then you go back up the other stream. I mean, people do that all the time, and too many people, I don't know whether you've been watching TV and watching things that are going on all over the nation and everything else. I'm telling you, I never saw a bunch of idiots in my life. I mean, if anybody else is on my side with this idiot thing, I mean, come on. The telephone is there. The telephone numbers that are all over the place. If anybody wants to know that number, by the way, the number is 1-605-472-5765. Now, once you get that number on, it starts ringing and they come on, and some crazy recording says, well, if you put the number over here and the NASDAQ code. Okay, when you put in the access code, it's 608060. Simple as heck. So, again, 605-472-5765. The code is 608060, and a little hash mark right behind it. So
Yeah,
therefore,
pound. What they used to call pound signs.
yeah.
Now they're called hashtags.
Yeah, hashtags.
Yeah, sometimes though, I've got two different caveats to go on there. Sometimes things aren't as simple as they would appear. We all are running on different modalities, and so, and technology is rather new, even for us. We just changed it, right? So depending on who you are, where you are, it might not. It's a simple, it's a simple thing, but it might not be so easy. We talk about that with spiritual practice, right? It makes sense when you hear these things. But sometimes it's not so easy to hear, like you said, the story. You've got to go back in and have someone present it to you, which is really interesting because when I sat down to do the show today, I look around and I kind of catch glimpses of things that might stand out. And I looked at one of my clients send me gifts. We talk about Shining Bright, which is interesting because I grabbed the Shine Bright blog because of what they said. But at the bottom it says right here, Shine Bright, Dream Big. And one of my clients sent me this as a gift for Christmas a couple years ago. It says, life is an adventure. And I was taking notes and I thought, yeah, be yourself, right? Life is an adventure, be yourself. But sometimes this is really confusing. And I'll just speak from my point of view. I really thought I was being myself, and that was my closing line. I'm just being who I am, right? It's just who I am. And until we draw that line in the sand, we really don't know who is that just who I am. What did we create ourselves to just be along the journey? And, to be yourself is part of our Shine Bright blog. It's the fourth week in 90-day transformation journey. The first 4 weeks set the foundation for self-love.
Oh.
And then we got, I know, right? Ooh. So it's really people who are afraid of the whole journey. I created the mini journey. It's the self-love makeover, which is the first 4 blogs. And you could do a 4-week self-love transformation journey and stop there if that's what you want. But usually by that point, you're familiar with the work, the process, the language, working with me, and you see that going further is really going to open up all those different layers. And that's the whole 13-week journey. And but it is about shining bright, learning how to be yourself. Yeah.
You kind of hit it right on the head. It's loving yourself. I was on a show with another host, and that we both know, Jamie.
Yeah.
And we were talking about that, and when we were talking about it, and that I'm telling you, we were crying laughing because I turned around and I said, "What you mean? What you mean? Love myself? What you mean? What you mean by that?" So he turned around. He goes, "Well," he says, you got to love yourself." I said, "I love myself. I love myself." And then when I said that, I said to him, "But if I love myself, I love everybody else."
Right.
People don't realize that if you don't respect and love yourself, you can't love 100% someone else.
Yeah, it's a really complicated but easy thing once you feel it. And I just graduated someone from their actually 2 people from their first 90-day graduation. Oh my God, transformation. It was so fun. I love doing this. And when you actually see that it's you that creates your reality, and that how you love yourself is how you love others, and it's a mirror, and you can't love anyone truly unless you love yourself. It's really like this light comes on, this light switch, right? You just want to jump up and down. You're like, oh my gosh, I get it.
I know there's a lot of people.
I hope that Larry's listening, because we invited him to come back, but I wanted to tell you something because you're going to get a kick out of this. Sorry to interrupt you. We're getting used to each other's styles here. But I decided to be really, I thought, well, let's just be fun. Let's go look up and Google self-love on Google, right? So this is what came up in one of their big defined bars. People, what does it mean to have self-love? Okay, now, this is a quote from Google Psychology Today. So this is not my quote, and you won't agree with it either, but it says self-love is the opposite of being altruistic. It means thinking of yourself first, thinking of your own well-being first. It does not mean taking a hot bath when you feel like it. It means, as one commenter mentioned generally, putting your needs before others at a time when others need you. And I just thought, oh, that's so wrong. You always got to take your hot bath when you need it.
All right, let me.
You can love others. That's so you can love others. Because if you're not happy, they always say, mama's not happy, nobody's happy.
Right.
It's the same thing as self-love. It's like you have to have this peace in the middle of your universe, even though things might be spinning out around you that you have no control of because you can't if they're outside of you. You still have that place where you're like, okay, I got this. I'm going to be the calm of my own storm. I'm here. I'm going to be the one that doesn't rally to the occasion. I'm going to care for my troops, right? If you're going to be that fearless leader, that fearless parent or teacher or guide or whomever, right? You have to have that innate quality to love yourself so much that you know how to stay calm when lightning strikes, as we like to call it in.
Here's a quote for you. Work on being in love with the person in the mirror who has been through so much but is still standing.
It's funny because when I hear that, I think I just look at my mirror, and I look at my mirror as my mind and my heart. So, and my family and all my friends would laugh. I'm an Aquarius and I'm a rooster. So I have this double, I don't want to say curse, but there was this part of my journey was to stop looking at myself, like our reflections, anything. And it talks about that with roosters. We're always preening. And I'm actually on the cusp of rooster and dog, which is interesting. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's...
And I really have both of those qualities too. So I'm like, but it's one of those things where I stopped looking at myself altogether through the process. And I really kind of lost track of who I was. I mean, my family walked into my house, they're like, you don't have any mirrors. I'm like, I don't know, they're not there. And slowly I always tried to figure out why, because I'm a thinker and I have been my whole life. And, my aunt used to quiz me all the time, like, why are you always staring at yourself in the mirror? Because I would get ready for school and I'd be sitting Indian style in front of the mirror on the floor, doing my makeup and hair, just chilling out. And I said, I don't know, but I'll figure it out, right? Someone asked me a question, I'm going to figure it out. And the only thing I could come back with was I wanted to make sure I'm still here. Now, that answer came to me when I was a teenager. And I had no idea of the spectrum of thought that I would be opening or could open if I tried. And I look back at that answer, and I think that's pretty profound for a spiritual being that's trying to seat themselves in their body to shake off all the things that it came with, to remember it's still here. Like, that was my answer. I'm like, what I came up with is it's because I'm trying to remember that I'm still here. And so I think that there's mirrors inside of us that, are trying to turn, and we use the outside world to help flip those mirrors. I become a mirror, you become a mirror, we're all mirrors. It's very confusing sometimes to people. Like, what do you mean I'm a mirror? And when you try to show someone at first, because even for me, I was fighting that mirror outside of me in everything that I presented myself for my whole life. And when I fell to my knees, I wrote the book, and that veil was lifted. I was like, holy cow, I thought I knew some things. And luckily I got that next ticket.
Well, there you go. There you go. And
self-love is so good. Yeah,
I'm still watching that phone thing over there, and there's still nobody calling in that yet. But I am watching the it's international actually graft here, and it's going through the roof. So there's a lot of people listening.
Hi everybody who's listening. Hello out there. Yeah,
let me remind them of one thing. Don't forget, everybody. Okay. There is a chat room. Just go to www.pyramid1network.com. You'll see a picture of pyramids. Click on the picture. When you click on the picture, you'll go right into the landing page. The chat room is there. You can swear all you want to at me if you want to, because I'm looking at it. And we take all those questions and we read them live. So
yes, if you have a question, you could call in, and Bob will read it to me as long as it doesn't have profanity in it.
Yeah, no, they can. I'll just leave that. Well, like somebody will turn around and say, "Well, I was looking in the damn mirror and I didn't see a thing."
Buddy,
I'll say, "Were you sitting on the floor or what?"
It's interesting words, and it's interesting how we project and present ourselves. What I learned, and I don't know if this will make sense to everybody, but how I present myself to the world is a mirror that I'm showing myself who I'm being. And it's not really me telling the world who I am. It's me telling myself who I was. And I had to really start looking at that mirror and realize I'm not talking out, I'm talking in. I was trying to really, I think we try to get our own attention to wake ourselves up. And when we start to realize that what we project, I think for me, that what we project is our highest self trying to break through the fear-based and mind-based thinking so we could really shine bright in the hues of our own attention, that anything that's painful or dramatic is really a flashlight through time, trying to just really go, here's where the fear is, here's where the pain is, look here, break open. But what we're taught, you know, in society is to things, to make the pain go away right away, to not talk about it if we're uncomfortable, or depending on how we learn to communicate it, we can't open up and share. To move through pains a lot. So they just kind of get covered over like the rings in a tree. We just kind of circle around. And I just got a message, and I am laughing. I do have to interrupt on that. We've got another Aquarian rooster on the station, I think. We are definitely grounded.
Yeah, he is. Let me see. He's about 14,000 miles away.
Yeah, but he's in Australia, so we're holding down the forks. And when is John's birthday? What date is his birthday?
I don't know, but he's listening to us right now. So, John, just write it in the chat box. What's your birthday? You don't have to put the year, just the month and the day. You
own that.
You need the year too?
He doesn't have to put the year, but I love getting older. It's part of the journey.
Let me see.
He's an Aquarian rooster. Well, any day. Yeah, he could be February too. I wonder if he's January.
Yeah, he is. I'm almost positive.
My birthday is January 25th, so I'm going to be 49 this Thursday. And
I'm a Taurus, so watch out.
I like that you're a Taurus. We need your sensibility and stubbornness in the studio.
Oh yeah.
I have a sister who's a Taurus, and she's the sweetest, most stubborn, compassionate woman I know. And my grandfather was a Taurus, but my sister is, she's so sweet, like just goodness sweet. I love her. That's my Nicole. She's born on Cinco de Mayo, which is on the May 5th, and that's when all the planets are in alignment. There's a rare occurrence that happens on May 5th.
What I was going to say was somebody told me one time, somebody that does astronomy and things like that, they said that Taurians are, their whole life is built on love, direction, being loyal, and like thinking out of the box. They don't want everything as the way everybody else does.
You know, the thing about astrology is, and I love it. I know there's people who that's who they came to be, and there's this whole scientific study to it that I believe in that I can't back up, so I won't talk too much about it because it's not my special knowledge. But I try to tell people that how we're raised is a huge influence. It's like another layer of our personality, and so people can't group all people together that are the same sign. People will say, oh, this person's an Aquarius, and then we have our rising sign, our moon sign. There's so many different things that come into play to a chart. I have a numerologist that I work with, and she's my old co-host on my radio show, Connie Ransom Rose, and she's superb at doing charts. And I highly recommend her. If anybody out there ever, if you want to have numerology done, if you want to have your chart done, you can message us at the studio. I'll get you in touch with Connie. But she has done my numbers, and she used to come on the show. We did a celebrity reading of each month of someone's astrology chart, and they were always blown away. We say at the show, curiosity is a doorway. Self-love is opening up doorways, because you have to be a little bit comfortable with, like, let's get curious. Let's get curious about what I don't like. Let's get curious about what I do like. If what I like is something that I really like, or is it just something that I think I liked. I was talking to someone the other day, and I said, I work with food a lot, because I'm not that I have a problem with food. I never really have, but I work with what my body needs versus what I think it needs. And when you go along the spiritual path I am, you slowly are becoming healthier and healthier, and learning to be, and especially at 49, take care of your body with more vitamins and minerals, and just really paying attention so you can have your tabernacle can be seated clearly. So when you're connecting spiritually, we can reach into every cell, right? Every cell's optimized.
Right.
And I know, isn't that funny? I just love that. I never would have even thought about that a couple of years ago. I'm like, every cell's optimized, right? And so when we do that with, I actually lost my place. And I do that once in a while, but I'll always come back. And what was I just talking about with the birth charts, and then with getting your reading done, and then how self-love is, and how self-love, it'll come back to me. Darn it. Did we find out how old John is when his birthday is?
I'm waiting for him to type back. I don't know where he is.
He's not going to answer. We have gone off track a little bit, and I always plan on doing that. That's the story of my life. Be yourself, right? That's the quote of this show, be yourself. And self-love as a process of awakening, caring for yourself, for your body, for your mind, for your soul, and being curious enough to have questions to ask about it. That's what I was talking about. I'll always come back around. When we want to find out about self-love, we have to be curious enough to ask a question, to open a door, to maybe think that what we like or what we don't like might be something we programmed ourselves to, or may have been programmed with us. I mean, when we grow up with a family, when we're born into that nucleus, that is our first shell. It's our first book of self. We literally are all there together. And I laugh because everything's sort of like a cell. I mean, think about it. My house is a big cell that I live in the middle of the woods. But if you have a family, you come into, you're a Republican, you're a Democrat, you go to college, you don't go to college, you like rock and roll, you like jazz, opera. There's all these set things in a family that just you grow up in. So we take some of these things on, we don't take others, we rebel. And so learning to question those things, to think, would I really always chose these things to be a part of my makeup or not? And that's the fun that I think I really embrace in my spiritual journey. And even with food right now, I laugh because I know that what I want, I don't need. It's just, that's where we really started this conversation. Was I was having a conversation with one of my clients going, I'm working with all sorts of things that I really just know I don't need. And the reason I know I don't need them, even though I want them, is because if I never knew they existed, then I would never know, right? So we have to question what we think we know. And that could be with anything, religion, politics, schooling, a language, cosmology, if you want to learn how to till the land. There's so many things out there to learn, but until we try them to see if we like them, we won't know. We won't know that maybe we don't have a prejudice against this thing or that thing. We just were given that when we were growing up, and maybe we should challenge that question, see if it's truly, with our own research, whether it's something we want to embrace or not in our life. Whether it's, I only eat apple pie on Sunday, right? It could be anything. Peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You had me thinking about peanut butter and jelly sandwich today, right?
There you go.
And so,
you don't know what I did yesterday. To anybody that was listening to me say something about peanut butter and jelly and that last week, they actually had at our Publix supermarket over here, they had a twofer thing. You like buy one, get one free. I swear to you now, if anybody's looking at the picture, at the thing, I got 2 bottles like this.
Of peanut butter?
Creamy peanut butter. I brought it home, and everybody's looking at me going, huh? What the heck did you do? And I said, get my peanut butter.
You get your peanut butter on. I love peanut butter, and
it's good for you.
It's one of those things that even when I'm going without sugar, I still stick by. I live in the middle of the woods in Ashford, Washington, and I love Amazon, right? So it's my go-to for everything. So I do my shopping on Amazon, and I was looking for peanut butter on there the other day, and they have huge, I call it a vat of peanut butter that you can buy. I thought, I will never run out. I just sent you Larry. I sent you Larry's number. Larry, we've kind of we've been running away with the show, and I didn't realize that I needed to send the number to Bob, so he's calling you.
I got it.
But yeah,
he's
self-love. If you're new to self-love, you might not find what I believe the true basis of self-love is just online. I mean, look at that question by Psychology Today, putting your needs before others at a time when others need you. If we take care of ourselves first, we'll be ready when others need us. And that's kind of the fun part, is to be prepared. Something I never was really big on in my life. I never wanted to be prepared for anything. I always wanted to be in the moment. But those two things can be the same thing when you live in real time, the now, which is really all there is. But first you got to balance and seat the soul. You've got to take care of love and fear. You got to break down all of those emotional boundaries that would rather keep you from the truth and beauty of all. That self-love really is sustaining food that we can live on, and we can really breathe and give to others, even all the way across the world, whoever's listening.
Let's see
on the
if
other
we,
side of the world.
let's see if we got Larry in here. Larry, you there?
Hello. Hello.
Listen.
There you go.
Hi, Larry.
Hello. Nice to hear both of your voices.
There you go. There you go. Now, if anybody was trying to call into the conference line, when Larry's on, I can't have the conference line on, so we just lost that one. But nobody was dialing into that one, but you will next week. I know you will.
Yeah, there's going to be a while. People will warm up. But we've got Larry here, which was really important. I'm kind of having a beautiful deja vu. Larry, welcome back to the show. Conscious Speaks Radio, Self-Love Mastery. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very good, and thank you very much for allowing me to be part of this terrific conversation as well.
Were you listening at all, or did you just come in?
I just actually came in because I just finished the future author, and was trying to make sure that that he knows that it's okay to be overwhelmed, because that's what the love of others is meant to do, is to bring you back around and allow you to understand that other people are here to mentor you and support you and love you, and make sure that you just keep moving with one foot in front of the other, right?
Yeah, right, because at some point we all are overwhelmed, and then when we reach out, we get that help, and then all of a sudden everything changes.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, it's nice to talk to both of you, and it sounds like we have a solid technology base to stand on this time.
We do. Bob really made sure that.
You guys had a problem last time?
No, not at all. No.
No problem, remember? No problem.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
It's really beautiful for everybody who's listening out there right now, or for anybody who's listening later when you press play. This is Larry J. Snyder, and he is definitely an amazing author who had a book we talked about last Monday called 10 Years in Tuscany. But today he's going to talk about 12 extraordinary people like you. He talks about the 5 extraordinary qualities we all have, and how when we live our life sharing them, that we are fulfilled. Is that right?
Absolutely. In fact, Which One Am I is the title of the book, 12 Extraordinary People Like You. And the reason why this particular subject matter of extraordinary people came into my life is because of my mother, who cared for vulnerable children most of her life. And I wanted to write her story. And as I started writing her story, in a 4-year battle with vascular dementia. And anyway, during that battle, and we spent a lot of time together, her and I, and unfortunately her memory, she was in memory care, and there were these little flickers of time that would come back to her. But I always remembered all the extraordinary things about her. But when you spend time with someone whose memory is lapsing, you have to start remembering for them. And that was a fascinating process to go through as her son, was to through a recognition process for her that allowed me to tell her on a regular basis how important she was, not just to me, but to the hundreds of kids whose lives she impacted. So I decided to write her story, and as I was writing it, I realized that there was many people in my midst that embodied the extraordinary qualities that my mother did. And so that's how the book went from one person being my beloved mother, 12 others who are all people that have had a big impact on my life in the last 20 years, and were, like you, Kelly, world people that have taken people's lives from where they are to where they either want to go or where they haven't been imagine where they could go unless they met somebody like you. So that's the genesis
someone
of
like
the book.
You. Someone like you too. You know, what stuck out to me was you said remembering for them. Tell me how that works.
Well, I think that when you almost have to go through this process to fully grasp this picture, but I'll try and describe it because the best way I can do it. So my mother was in a care unit with 26 other residents, and they had a pretty regimented program in the morning, and then in the mid morning, and then the midday, and then the evening for dinner, and then time as a group. But it was the time between the regimented time that her and I would sit, and especially days, the last year of her life, I would bring a photo album, or I would bring music, and that would kind of guide our conversation. Where by opening a page of a family album, I could tell her the story about how extraordinary she was at that moment. So I'm helping her remember. And for me, of course, the benefit of that is I get to relive that experience myself. And that is sharing with another friend earlier today. I really am grateful for the life that I was brought up in, and going through this experience with my mother allowed me to visit that gratitude in major full form. So that's what I mean when I say it helped her remember for her.
That is amazing, because at first, when you said remembering for them, I really did go into that deep kind of, awakening, remembering. But then there is a definite schedule that they need help with, and to be monitored for all their medications and just normal things that, in the care of someone who needs full-time care. But to help remember a life by showing pictures and showing up the stories, was she able to, through you, remember certain things? How? Yeah,
in the latest days, Kelly, the only real communication I had was the strength of her hand, and also the movement of the recognition of something that she understood was the movement of us or not. In other words, when I went on to something, could truly remember what I was trying to say, and she could experience it in a smile. And then if not, I would jump onto some other picture, story, song, and that was really our form of communication, was that her holding my hand and the smile on her face, because usually the last, and I'm a doctor, I was in her care unit, there was a fair number of people in the same timeline as her. And so we use that as the remembering or recognition system, so to speak. I don't know what to call it. So anyway, that was a full period, a beautiful chapter, and one that once again made me realize that the love that she put out into the world became my own self-love and my own ability to recognize love in other people as well.
Right. I talk about this with my clients a lot, because we do a lot of mother-father work. The basis starts with our own mother-father here on earth, but it really goes further into feminine, masculine energies, the patterns of life that connect to matter to create, through us form. And it's one of those things where the love that your mother was giving you her life, you're now able to mirror back. And I know for me, the life where I was stuck in my mind, and so I was not able to mirror that love back properly to the people who cared for me in my life. And that's what self-love, learning what self-love really is, I think, does. It allows us to care for those who cared for us when we couldn't, and vice versa. Such a beautiful story. I know I have a client whose mother is in the end stages of dementia, and if she's listening, I'm sure she really was touched by the share of your story. And your mother's 5 extraordinary things, can you tell us what they are?
Sure. Well, whenever someday you will run into someone, my mom, that spent almost all of their life caring for really vulnerable people, whether they're children or elder humans, and there is there's just this deep association feelings that you get being around them. So her really where this story ends is in the inner city of Seattle during the crack cocaine era, where the majority of the children she was taking care of, she was taking care of 100. We'll call them welfare children. That was the word they used back then. And the majority of these kids had either no parents at home because their parents were in jail, or they had one parent at home who was trying to avoid going to jail because it was right in the middle of, again, the toughest neighborhood in Seattle. And so the amount of compassion that it took my mother and her staff to show these kids is remarkable for a couple of reasons. One is we're Caucasian, and all the kids, care of 99% of them were African American children. So right there's a difference in many different cultural norms that my mother had to navigate. And I was about 9 or 10 years old when this was going on. So my current 7 years old of multicultural life in the daily life that I live is because of those beginnings. And to be able to navigate that when we didn't live in the neighborhood way, we lived out in the suburbs. And so just those two different, race and neighborhood, made for obviously quite a bit of contrast, plus my own age being so young. Anyway, so that my mother's life was really in service to those who needed it most.
To children. And so with that came a lot of other qualities, which would be like giving, sharing, loving. Did she play piano, music? What were some other extraordinary qualities that she had?
Well, first of all, she was a fantastic so I want you to only imagine what that, and I'm the only.
Oh, you're really cutting out. You were a little bit, but now you are.
Larry, don't walk around with your phone.
There were. She and my father were both business operators. They were both entrepreneurs. So she taught, obviously, our family the value of balance as well, which.
Larry?
I think Larry's walking around.
Yeah.
I would walk around too. When I get emotional or I'm talking about something that's important, that's part of my human cue, is to walk around, pace back and forth. It sounds like
he fell out, yeah.
He fell out. I hope he calls. Well, we have to call him, right, to call back him?
Oh, don't worry about a thing. I definitely.
You're already on it, aren't you? You're so good.
Way ahead of you.
I want to hear more about his mom. I want to know her name.
Yeah. Don't worry, Larry. I'll find you.
He's gonna find you. Larry is the author of Which One Am I? 12 Extraordinary People Like You. And you can find this book that he wrote, and that's what I want to talk to him next about after we
I'm here.
He's here.
Oh, there you are. I was just telling everyone out there listening that we wanted to talk more about your book, but I really wanted to hear your mother's name. What's your mother's name?
Jean.
Jean.
Jean Snyder. Yep. And my
Jean
dad's name is
Snyder.
Larry, and so I share his name.
Namesake.
My father's name.
Well, it sounds like your mother was definitely a blessing on this earth. She was a caregiver, a business owner, a mother, a wife, in a time when things were really in crisis in the inner city in Seattle. I grew up in White Center, so it wasn't the worst neighborhood. But I'm familiar, as probably, we're the same age almost, so I'm familiar with those timelines and with everything that was going on in the communities. I know the work that they've done in the communities. I moved to Tacoma when I was older, and they had some, some problems in different communities up there, and they really have done a lot of rebuilding. People are getting more involved to care for each other. I don't believe all the hype. Yeah, I know that love is more important than fear, and that there's enough love for us all to take care of each other. There's enough resources for us all to have enough food and shelter and education, and anyone who wants to go to college or not. Both those things should not be stigmatized. People should be liberated to be free in who they are, and that all starts with the deep burning desire to free ourselves from the dogma and the stigma of the world that we've just pulled forward with us since the beginning of time. We can break it. And I think that your book, can you tell me about it? Is your book something that my listeners or the people and friends that I have, or anyone out there listening, could use to kind of inspire them?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the genesis of the book, other than my mother's story, was, as I mentioned, as I was writing it, I figured out that there's a whole bunch of people in my midst that embody the qualities of my mother. And so those 12 other people all gave me permission to write their story, what extraordinary qualities they have. But they're the kind of people that fly under the radar screen. In other words, they are game changers, world changers, that just go about their day doing this without really needing, wanting, or seeing the value in a lot of recognition. But that's also why I chose. It was, for me, I looked at them and said, you absolutely deserve to have some light shined on you. And I'll give you a couple of examples, and I'll give you the most basic examples that I can about who's featured in this book. So when my daughter was 6, my daughter's name is Daniela, when she was 6, she started piano lessons. And when I met this piano teacher the first time, whose name is Mr. Wayne, I thought, this man is really enthusiastic about music. He must just become a music teacher, because how could anybody be this fired up about teaching a kid to play one note for an hour? One middle C note for an entire hour. And
I love it.
Anyway, so I recognized in this man that he doesn't just love what he does. He gets that by his love of music and his love of teaching, that he's sending 16 little souls out of the door each day, or each day morning at 10 o'clock. He's sending them out the door with not only an added level of confidence, but an added love of something they can do, that's theirs to do. So they go home and they have their keyboard in the living room, and any of you that have been through kids with piano lessons realize that middle C, you can walk through a mall and pick out middle C in Christmas music because you've heard it 7 billion times. But anyway, Mr. Wayne is so fired up about middle C because he knows that he sends these kids out with an elevated sense of self. And so I said, can I feature you? I want to tell your story, because I know that based on just a little bit of time that we've had together, there is a story here. Anyway, it's a wonderful story about his upbringing in Kansas, and how he was the kid that didn't really, the farm stuff didn't really take with him. And so it was this little bit of an awkward time where, okay, if you're not going to school, then I guess you're going to go to music school. And where in the world do kids in the middle of nowhere in middle America go to music school? So anyway, his love of music was born out of a story in his family. And again, when I met him, I thought, this guy must be a new music teacher. He's been teaching music for 35 years, and he's still as fired up about Middle C, not because of music, but because he understands what an investment it's making in these kids. So which one am I, 12 Extraordinary People Like You, is about people like Mr. Wayne.
I love it. I think Mr. Wayne gets me excited. I love that he loves Middle C. It's about connecting, right? And so when you get fired, when you love what you do, you never work a day again, right? And we all have our own different who we came to be. And his way to connect and send love and energy out into the universe was this harmonic way through the children.
Yep.
And that's a beautiful story.
One other thing, let me just add real quick about Mr. Wayne that is kind of one of these unintended consequences of. So when Mr. Wayne sends one of his students out in the world, and we'll use my daughter Daniela as an example, there is not a lot of convincing that we have to do at home to get her to practice, because he has instilled in her the love of music. So if they have a love of music, then they're good, and they feel like they're good at it, or they're getting good at it, then they want to keep doing it. And so again, didn't necessarily have to. A little bit later in life we've had to, but early on, at least the first 3 or 4 years, it was a joy to practice, because Miss sent us home with these tools and these little blue practice sheets. And again, because Daniela felt like every time she left his classroom, she had yet another added sense of self and confidence, that she wanted to show that to me, the parent. So the unintended consequence of a great teacher is a kid who's proud of themselves and wants to show their parents that. And that may all seem very logical, but it's not. A great teacher creates a sense of elevated confidence, which again makes my life so much better because of it.
Right, it really is just love, right? Confidence is the positive side of love, right?
Yep.
Every emotion can have a negative or a positive vibration to it. And the confidence that she had instilled through her teacher, and being able to have that acknowledgement of you're doing well, keep it up, and her really feeling his love of it, his truth of it, her soul sensing his honesty in his teaching, allowed her to really bridge that compassion and love for herself, and then share it with you. Did you say that was for a while? When you're that's until teenager hit, right? When it's at that point, it's either music or boys.
She's
right?
13. She's 13 now, and the game has changed. But what hasn't changed, what has not changed though for Daniela, is when she goes through her daily life in school now, she recognizes the qualities of Mr. Wayne in other teachers. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah, and she imprinted on that soul characteristic.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, and that's amazing. I grew up in White Center, which you are familiar of, and it's right next to West Seattle. And I never met this person, but there's a maestro named David Kyle, and he taught so many people I know how to sing, and everybody knew him. And he is like your Mr. Wayne, and everybody talked about him. He would go to the coffee shop on Alki, walk down there, and everybody, good morning, Maestro, good morning, Maestro. And his love, his passion was singing. And some of the great musicians have been to him to learn, and then just regular students going to learn. And one of those really good oratory, those harmonic masters here on earth to help bring that resonance of love through giving and sharing music through voice or through playing. And so I get that. He inspired me, and I never even met him, right? He just lived in my area. to know that there was a great
Right.
teacher out there.
You know,
Yep.
I feel sorry for that guy. I really do, because I used to teach,
Yeah.
and the kids that I used to take when I began teaching, I guess I was about 17. I just got my license actually, and I started teaching guitar. And
Oh, cool.
I had parents that would come in with 6-year-old kids that wanted to play
Mm-hmm.
guitar. Now you can imagine I mean, if I'm not 17 right now, this was a few years ago. I mean, this was just
Yep.
pre-Beatles. You know, one of those,
Oh,
yeah, one of those kind of things. And
yeah.
it was so funny because, a teacher, what I learned, and I was very young and when I learned it, the two things that you have to have is the passion for what you're doing and the
Yep.
patience to teach someone
Oh, yeah.
else. Because if you're going to play C for 3 hours, I know what it's like, man. I tell you, it's unbelievable, especially when the kids have their fingers are just barely long enough to go across the keyboard on the guitar. One of those things.
Yeah.
And one of the students that I had 3 of them at that age, but one of them actually
Mm-hmm.
won awards in guitar playing.
That's terrific.
So I
That's
mean,
fantastic.
and that was the kid that nobody would touch. These kids,
Yeah.
nobody.
Yeah.
I mean, 6 years old.
There's someone for everyone, right? There's someone that, I liken it to. It's just one of my known beliefs is that if we're doing our best work every day, to be our best person, and be kind and gentle, we never know who we might touch or share or
Mm-hmm.
inspire. And if our whole journey is to be that one person, and you never know who that person is, that you might have opened the door and smiled at someone and changed their life, right? Because it was that moment.
Yeah.
You might be that teacher who helped that one kid that nobody wanted to take on, but you were the one who was meant to be able to, because you could connect through your frequency, right?
These were actually these was people who the child itself wanted to learn. The parents thought he was crazy too. But they said, well, let me find a teacher or whatever. And the guy who owned the music I used to where I taught was in the basement of an old music store. I mean, this is a place where all the masters from all over the place, anywhere in New York and everything else, they used to come out to New Jersey to this little old music store. So I got to meet some pretty heavy duty people in the business.
That's cool.
But this kid that was there, the kid wanted to learn. And just because of that, the passion that I saw in the kid, I said, what have I got to lose? All right, I might go crazy.
Everything to gain.
Yeah. I mean,
Everything
it's just one of those things.
Larry, I'm curious. What is one of your 5 amazing things that you do? What do you think is the most amazing thing that you have to share?
In terms of myself?
Yeah,
what's your asking?
Yeah, I know it's hard to pick one sometimes. But.
I think the quality that I bring into every day, I refer to as acknowledgement. And the word acknowledgement is very thematic for me, because when I recognize, again, that I have been gifted a really, really terrific childhood, but also I've been gifted the ability to acknowledge it on a daily basis. I go out in the world trying to help others acknowledge what gifts they have. And, maybe the people didn't have the same upbringing that I did, but if they did have a chapter or a part of their lives that really has made them who they are now, just the acknowledgement of that on a daily basis. I'm talking about daily gifts here, not something you acknowledge once a month, but just acknowledging that when your eyes open, that you're acknowledging that this day not only as a gift, but it exists, and it's for you to go out in the world and help others create, again, their own sense of acknowledgement. I think that it's time only seems to matter to some people when it's running out. And I've decided to kind of go the opposite direction, and that is to acknowledge that I have time because I'm not sure when it's going to run out, so I'm going to use it for its greatest purpose while I have it, and I'm going to ask others to do the same. So acknowledgement is.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'll go a step further in my reality, and I think we are time. That gravity creates life, and that's how we exist in matter. I love that you chose that one of your 5 special gifts is acknowledgement. That's incredible, to help other people acknowledge, real time, and to see their beauty and worth. I mean, it's so apparent if we think about everything with 10 years in Tuscany, and the ability and the gift to be able to spend a year there with your family and learn how to communicate and show love without using words or written language that you understand when it comes to, looking at your book, Which One Am I? And then writing the story to showcase 12 extraordinary people that in your life that have been real way showers. When I hear you say, I've been blessed to have my life, and I'm going to try and help others realize their life is blessed. Acknowledgement. And then I think of way shower. It's a word that came up just recently in a conversation in a blog I'm writing, and it's one who wishes to embody a way shower is one who embodies the qualities that he or she wishes others to absorb and learn, who manifests these qualities in full measure so that the light that they carry can transfer to the consciousness of all who behold them. And I think of that with our conversation, with everything that you've said today.
No, it's beautiful. Do I have a moment to share one other story?
Yes, please.
Or are we out?
Nope, you have a couple minutes. Take it all.
One of the other, what's that?
Take it all. It's yours.
Oh, okay. Okay. So one of the other really special people who came into my life about 5 years ago, his name is Cindy, and she was nice enough, reluctantly, though, to let me write her story. And what Cindy's done, and one other chapter of my life, which we haven't talked about, is my work in West Africa. And so the work in West Africa is part of a broader set of philanthropy initiatives that I've been working on for the last 10 years. But I actually went to West Africa once in 2016 and then once last July. And the purpose of the trip in July was to open a school that's dedicated to my mother. And it was one of the most incredible experiences of my life, but none of it would have happened if I hadn't met this woman named Cindy, who builds first access basic education schools in Sierra Leone in West Africa. And anyway, that's really she's one of the people that has completely generated this whole acknowledgement piece in me, because when you're in West Africa and you're out in the middle of nowhere in a village and you see people that are living with incredibly modest means, but they still have this happiness and this love for each other, you really have to acknowledge, okay, maybe all this material stuff that I live around in my life is not worth what I thought it was, and maybe what the actual value of life is in through the love of others, the love of community, the love of being part of literally a tribe. But again, Cindy allowed me to write her story in Which One Am I? And I am just so grateful, because those two experiences of traveling to West Africa have again completely changed the way I value things, especially, and what I value what I'm doing here at this moment is sharing with an audience that wants more awakening and more instructions on how to find the love to share with others. Right, how to bridge out of the circumference, right? The joy of not knowing, even, right? Like it's an odd relation, but I was talking about if you don't know that you don't. If you think you love coffee ice cream, but then one day you never knew it existed, it wouldn't be there, right? And I was talking about that earlier with a food analogy of what we don't know doesn't have to be a truth, right? Or what we do know doesn't have to be a truth. So materialism, I'm not trying to put it down,
But it doesn't have to be the ends to the means. There's enough to go around, and we could see this through diverse communities, even here in the United States, where people have shunned that idea, the minimalist and different people protesting stuff for happiness, right? Love is happiness, and we could get by. We could get by on so little. I preened my life to that. My first 2 years of my second 2 years of my spiritual journey were traveling across the country and getting rid of everything. I lived a renunciatory path, and I look back and see how I was walking that path, but literally have given away everything. And that was my path. It's not for everybody, but for me, it was that just letting go. And then slowly started to rebuild when I came back home to really live and grow and work with householders and people here and be in touch and still be a part of a tribe, right? Because I think that connection is the most important thing. When we awaken spiritually, I think the worst thing we could do is go find a hole and stay in the bubble. We've got to go test and practice what we've learned. We've got to open up further. We've got to share and give, and we've got to allow ourselves to, yes, we still will feel pain, but we don't have to suffer from it, right? And that's the beauty of it. And then help others not suffer. It's not that hard to help others not suffer. But first, we have to realize that we're suffering. A lot of people don't know that. I didn't. And I was pretty much, I mean, I knew that I wasn't where I wanted to be, but I didn't realize all the things that I know now. And that's why we have Conscious Speaks Radio. This is why you're calling in. I love having you on as a guest. I love this next step you gave me. I want to talk to Cindy.
Actually, you know what? That would be fun someday to let her share, because she really does have a beautiful story. I'm happy to put you all together, because boy, if anybody knows what self-love is, it's her, because she's seen these tribes really have to come together just to literally to survive. She worked over there as a Peace Corps volunteer, but then also helped these villages come back together after Ebola, because Sierra Leone is known for, unfortunately, several challenges, and one of them is Ebola. So anyway, so no, I'd be happy to do that for you.
Yes, we'll all come together. The more the merrier.
Okay.
I want to thank you so much for being on the show today. I wish we had more time to talk, but I really enjoyed you sharing your story. I want to keep in touch, and hope that you'll follow along. And thank you so much for sharing with us today.
You're welcome. Absolutely. And again, I will look forward to talking to you again soon.
Yes, definitely. Have a wonderful day.
Later, Larry.
I will. Okay, thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Bob, very much for taking care of everything out.
Don't worry about a thing. You have a great evening.
Well, that was very super fun. I am finding that I really like talking to Larry. He has got a lot of different interesting and beautiful, what is the word? Acknowledgement? What did he say his word was? His best quality was acknowledgement. That is something I think we can all take home. Self-love literally is acknowledging ourselves and loving us, right? Loving ourselves right where we are.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, he's got
peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah, right. Oh, baby. Got to try it on Ritz crackers.
No.
But you'll go through a whole sleeve in an hour.
You're so bad.
I am. I'm terrible. But it's all healthy. It's all healthy food. You know, Larry has in a book, it's called Which One Am I? 12 Extraordinary People Like You. And right now, if you're in the chat room, you will see the address to get the book. You will see the address to go see Larry. And a little story about Larry in there, too. So there you go. That's what happens in the chat room. You get all the information you want to right at the tips of your finger.
Stay with us while we're growing and living and creating our show here at Conscious Speaks Radio. As I said last time, I don't have my intros and outros recorded. We grow slow. We don't worry. There's no problems. We're all here in the cosmic airways of time. But what I'd like to do is thank you, Bob. Thank you, Pyramid One Network. Thank you, John. And thank everybody who's thinking of calling in. Thank Larry for calling in, and thank everybody for listening. Have a great and wonderful evening. We'll see you next week. This is Kelly J signing off.
Well, there you go. Stop and listen to Pyramid One Radio right here in Lakeland, Florida, where we make things possible.